Hello, welcome to another video. This PC is basically been given to me from a free website. It's listed, or it was listed as not working. So let's have a look and see what it's like. Will it work? Won't it work? It's kind of got a nice Corsair case. I haven't looked inside, so I've no idea what's going to be in here. It's got this kind of cool display here. Nice Sony DVD rewriter here, USB 3 on the top, and then we just spin it round. This is the side, this is the back, and it's got a Wi-Fi card, it's got a graphics card. I think they said that didn't work, I'm not sure. Power supply, and the motherboard looks quite premium. It's got all these gold sort of accents. It's got 4 USB 3, 4 other USB and video connections, 5 on sound and PS2, etc. But let's have a look inside. And I'll take the side off. We've got 2 fans here. Might make things a little awkward depending where the cables are. Okay, so what do we have in here? So what do we have in here? We've got a socket 1150. We've got an EVGA 600 watt 80 plus power supply, some dust. We've got Corsair fan at the bottom, Corsair fan at the front. This is the optical drive, which is actually IDE, so it's not connected. And oh, is this like a temperature sensor for something? Maybe that front panel. I've got a hard drive here, and there's even an NVMe or SATA SSD M2 drive down there. And we've got this Cooler Master, all in one. And then 4 sticks of RAM, that's pretty good. The motherboard is a Gigabyte Z97X-Gaming 7. Here's a closer look at the motherboard and the little West Digital Blue 250 GB drive there. I don't know what size this is, or whether it will pull out from this side, or whether I need to pull it out from the other side. I can't really see what that is. And we should have a look at this graphics card to see what that is as well. It's a really interesting looking motherboard with this there's a switches at the top, such as reset, and a power button on the motherboard. And yeah, let's have a look at this graphics card. Could definitely do with some additional support. Was it the 970, 980 series cards that were like this, where they kind of lacked the strength to sort of without bending, so that sometimes caused problems. So I'm going to be testing the power supply first with a power supply tester, because I don't want to switch it on and it blow things up. So socket 1150, that's most likely DDR3. Is that the Intel 4th gen? Let me have a look at some of this memory. What have we got here? It's Kingston, so it could be 8 GB, or it could be a pair of 4 that makes up an 8 GB stick. Those look the same. Single-sided, so I'm guessing they're probably 4 GB sticks for a total of 16 GB. These are also basically the same as the ones I've taken out. And let's have a look if I can get this graphics card out. It's got an 8-pin and a 6-pin power connector. It's a wind force and Gigabyte card full of dust. It's an N970G1 Gaming 4GD Rev 1.1, so that's going to be a GeForce 970 for Gigabyte card as far as I'm aware. Pretty dusty, but not too bad and could easily be cleaned. On the back there are a bunch of connections as HDMI, DisplayPort, and these ones as well. So there's a whole bunch of SATA connectors here. And then ATX4P down here. Got a nice looking sound circuitry here. Battery, Wi-Fi card. I've got a power supply tester, so let's start connecting this power supply to this. Okay, so whoever's put this together has put some effort into cable management. There's a cable tie here. This motherboard's actually got an LED display. That's quite cool. You don't see that very often. Well, I don't anyway. So I'll start with the motherboard connection and the CPU connection. And that should be okay to start with. It's currently switched off. I'm going to put the power in and I'm going to switch it on. Okay, so it's powered up many of the fans because I think there'll be direct connections to the power supply. We've got 12 volts. Not sure if you can see that. 12 volts, 12.1, 5.1, 3.4 on the 3.3 rail, and 12 volts and 5 volts. So power supply seems good. Maybe leave it for a little bit to see if it continues being good. All these fans are spinning, apart from this one, which I suspect the light will be connected to something, a controller or some power, but the actual fan speed is still connected to the motherboard, which is not connected. So, shall we check the thermal paste on the processor? See what that's like. I think that would be a good next step. That was drawing about 22 watts just for the fans. Just spotted a light controller there, LED lights, RGB light controller down there. Okay, let's remove this heatsink and see what we've got under here. I have no idea what the processor is, so it'll be interesting to see what we have. Okay, so these come off. Let's have a look. Seems a bit stuck. Just in this one corner over here, it is stuck. Okay, the reveal. Oh, we've got quite a lot of wet thermal paste under there. Yeah, it's still wet. Not got much movement. These cables are really tight, and I don't really want to get thermal paste on everything, so I can't really move this very far at all. Let's see if I can spin that around so you can see thermal paste on both edges. Maybe not spread out as nicely as it should be. So let's give this a wipe and reveal what the CPU is. And we've got an i5 4690. Okay, which means it can be overclocked quite easily. These are the pins. This is the other side of the processor. I think we'll start putting this back together and see what happens if we try and power it on. These are the switches on the motherboard that I was talking about. We've got a CMOS, we've got a reset, we've got the power button, and there's also a switch to switch between BIOS 1 and 2, and then I'm not sure what SB 1 and 2 switch is for. But there's also a row of, hopefully these are LEDs, so we'll be able to see if there's any errors that come up. One of the heatsink mounting points has gone under the motherboard, so I'm going to have to open up the side to hold that in place. That is reattached. I would call that a bit of a nightmare, but hopefully that's attached well enough. So let's put some memory back in and see if we can get something from this. I'm going to try it without the graphics card to begin with. Okay, we've got the power in, we've got the monitor connected with HDMI, we've got a keyboard. I'm going to flick the power button. We've got lights on the keyboard. We've got a light up there. I think everything should still be connected, like the fans, the power to the motherboard. Let's press the power button on the front. We've got some codes on there. Okay, switched off, but is it going to switch back on? Yep. And we seem to have a code of CO. Let's just check what's happening here with this. No, it's switched off again. So you can hear the liquid in this when that's switching on and off. We've still got the CO code. And it's switching off again. Let's switch it off down here, and I'll press the reset switch and the CMOS switch, And I may as well flick the switch up for the other BIOS, see if that does anything. Getting that code of CO again. So I'm going to quickly Google that and see what that means. I expect it will switch itself off. Yeah, okay, I'll switch it off down here as well. Let's try back with the switch down. Let's try some different memory slots. Maybe I'm meant to start with these grey ones first. Let's try this with one stick of memory. Switching it on now. There's no lights up there, and it's switched off again. Maybe the motherboard is dead? I don't really know. Maybe the motherboard's got a problem of some kind. Switching it off. I'll take this card out just in case. This is just a little Wi-Fi adapter, Asus. Let's try again, see if that makes any difference. CO is still the code on the motherboard. Nothing on the screen. And it switches off. Okay, I've put all the 4 sticks of memory in. I'm going to press that power button just for fun. And we're getting the CO error code again, and there's a little light down here. Whoops. A little light down there. And it's switching off. The internet seems to think that it could be a problem with the CPU socket if there's any bent pins. I don't think I saw any, but I'm going to have a look back at the video to see what is going on there. I had a look, but I couldn't see anything on the video. So apart from maybe a little bit of a discoloration on one of the pins on the CPU. So I'm going to try a different CPU. This is an i3-4130. So it should go in there, and that means taking this off again, which is a bit of a pain. Can you see anything wrong with the pins on here? I'm just going to leave that dangling. It should still power on. Thermal protection should keep the CPU okay. I just want to see if it works before reattaching the heatsink. Do not do this at home, obviously. Let's press the power button. Getting CO code again. And it should switch off. Yep. So the motherboard, I think, is the problem here. It could be the memory. I don't know if this memory works or not, so I'll just put some of my own memory in that I know works, but I think it's going to be the motherboard. Just going to hold that in place, and then I need to switch it on again. Not sure if you can see that. It's alive. Interesting. Let me move my hand. So that's odd. Maybe it is the memory. Oh, got a blue screen. What is this memory telling me? I think that's the most frustrating thing about Kingston RAM, is that this is all absolutely meaningless unless you put this into Google to find out what the specifications of this memory are. And that's a pain when they could have just written it on there like everybody else. So let me see if what happens if I put the other CPU back in. Let's switch this off. I seriously need a third hand. I'm going to hold the plate on the back, hold this heatsink in place. It's basically fighting me because these cables or pipes want it to move, and then I need a third hand to screw the screws on. This is super awkward. Okay, we're back. The original processor is in there. I've lost one of these little screws to hold that on. I don't know how. I haven't moved more than a foot, so hopefully it's not gonna blow the system up by being in some random place and short-circuiting it. But here we are. We've got the system posting. I'm going to probably take that drive out so that we're not booting from this. And I want to see if I can go into the BIOS and have a look at the CPU temperature. So F2 classic mode, current status i5 4690K, which is a quad core, got 4 gigabytes of RAM. Let's see if we can find PC health status. So CPU temperature 27 degrees. So we've got a system that is actually working. Turns out it didn't like the memory that was in there, which is interesting. Or maybe it was the memory slot that's a problem. So what I'll do is I'll try these other memory slots, see if it accepts more memory in the other slots, and take it from there, I guess. So I'm going to put in another 4 gigabyte stick of RAM, and I'm going to switch it on. And we've got it booting. Let's try another stick of RAM. Many thanks to Rob from Tech Head Forums for sorting out some extra spare memory for me. So let's put this one in and see what we get. Have we got the error back? CO, yep, so that's switching off. So either this memory is bad or doesn't like this memory slot. So let's try some memory that we know works. This blue one in this slot. Okay, that's posted. So maybe this memory is bad. I've not tested this before. Let's switch it off. Let's try some more memory. Okay, so I've got memory in the 2 black slots here. That's posting, so I'll just grab some more memory that I know works. Okay, so we've got 2 sticks of Crucial RAM here as well. Let's switch this on and see what happens. Okay, so it's posting. Let's remove this drive, plug in another drive, and see if we can boot into Windows. This is the drive. M.2 228.0, 250 gig, Western Digital, and I'll just plug in a SATA drive that I've got that already has Windows 10 installed on it. So we should be able to boot from this. So we've got this SATA drive connected here. Let's switch it on, press the power button, see if we boot into Windows. I should probably plug in a mouse. And we're in Windows. Wow. So we have a working PC. We've got the PC plugged into that, so that's showing you how much power it's using at the moment. It's got a task manager, it's using about 100 watts. And let's have a look. So we've got 4 cores. It doesn't have hyper threading, so it's not 4 and 8, it's just 4 cores. We've got 16 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM, and we've got this SSD. And this was a very basic install of Windows 10, so it looks like it's doing some other stuff like setting up OneDrive. I should probably put core temp on here if it's not on here already. Nope. And the next thing to do would be to check if the graphics card works. So this processor is an i5 4690K. I might have said 4590K, but apparently that doesn't exist. And yeah, it can run at slower speeds to save power. It's using 41 watts, the whole system at the moment, and then can increase its speed when it needs to. I've given this a quick clean to get rid of some of the dust, but I want to check if it works before giving it a proper clean and maybe some fresh thermal paste. So let's put this in and see if it works. Okay, I've put that in. I've connected the power. Ooh, it lights up. That's cool. And the fans are spinning. We're waiting for it to display something. And there we go. It looks like that works as well. This is pretty nice. Quite a nice system. It's useful having spare memory lying around, and donations definitely help. But I suppose we should connect it to the internet, update these drivers and see how this performs, because whilst it's posting it could still have errors, so we need to check that out. I'm currently downloading the NVIDIA graphics drivers, which for some reason are 850 megabytes, which seems rather excessive. I've also put core temp on here, but I thought I would show you the panel at the front of the case. This is an NZXT fan controller. So I can select the fan and I can turn the fan speed up. It's also got a temperature sensor, and then a lot of other options as well, like linking, switching them off, the beep control, I think, and it's all just a touch screen. Really quite cool. Although I guess the beep's a little bit more satisfying because you can tell you're actually doing something. And it's got these different modes, I guess. Not sure what they do, but yeah, pretty cool. I should probably download some benchmarking tools as well to see how it performs with 3D graphics, so I'll start doing that. The drive in here is a 2TB Barracuda, so I'll get in touch and see if they want this back, but if not, I'll securely wipe that. All of the downloads are going really quick, except for the NVIDIA downloads, which are going at 20 kilobytes per second, so 8 hours to wait, or 7 hours, or 9 hours. Several days later, I've found the extra screw for this so that this is properly attached. I've taken the graphics card out just temporarily while I do some more testing, but I've put core temp on, got CPU Z and other benchmarks on here for testing, and I've also taken the power supply out and cleaned up some dust, cleaned dust off the motherboard, things like that. And if we run this benchmark here, we can compare this processor to a reference processor on here, and I've overclocked the processor to 4.2 gigahertz in the BIOS. It gives an option to adjust the multiplier, so we're getting better performance now. I've enabled XMP for the memory, and I think with this system, you know, I should be able to put in 4 matched pairs of memory at some point. But if we have a look at this, we'll go down to the i5 7600K, and we're getting sort of similar performance from this 4th gen Intel CPU. Here you can see in detail close up the performance, and the interesting thing that I've noticed about this processor and heatsink combination is that the temperature will jump up quite noticeably during some of the testing, and the power usage has gone up noticeably with the overclock, but it will generally keep the processor fairly cool. One thing I thought could be quite interesting is to compare Quake 3 performance with the built-in graphics of this processor and then compare it to this graphics card. So this is set up for high quality 800 by 600. When we switch on time demo, we get this graphical glitch, which I've seen before and isn't anything to worry about. Demo 01. So we've got 806 frames per second there, which is really impressive considering it's just the built-in graphics. Let's switch over to the graphics card and run that again. We're back and we've got the graphics card installed, got all the drivers in there, and let's try Quake 3. I'll just check the settings, high quality. And that's 986 frames per second. I've also got Heaven benchmark, which I'll show a quick benchmark of just to see how this performs, and we can skip to the end to the score once I've shown you this working. So let's just run the benchmark. And there don't appear to be any problems with this graphics card as far as I can tell. There's no graphical glitches. We're getting 90 frames per second, temperature 44 degrees C, 45, which is definitely very reasonable. And yeah, that all seems fine. And after this, I can run a 3D Mark benchmark. There is a little bit of capacitor whine, but that seems to be fairly normal these days with older hardware. It's using about 250 watts at the moment, which, you know, this being a 600 watt power supply is not going to be putting too much strain on the power supply. So that's completed the benchmark. It's got a score of 3006, frames per second 119, minimum 33, maximum 252, and the temperature is around 60 degrees for the graphics card. So let's move on to another benchmark. You can hear that sort of sound. And then at the desktop, we're using 115 watts, 100 watts at the moment, going down to about 80 watts, 70 watts. Keeps going down. We're at 70 watts when nothing much is happening. But let's start 3D Mark and we'll pick one of these to run a benchmark. So it's using about 60 watts, doing nothing. Let's run one of these Firestrike benchmarks, DirectX 11. Just check if I've got core temp running. Nope, I'll start that. So you can see how many watts it's using at the moment, about 250, 258, 265 watts. And I won't record the whole thing, but I'll just show you that it's working fine. And it's not showing me the frames per second yet, but I'll show that on screen. Here we've got the benchmark running and you can see the frames per second at the bottom. So about 60 frames per second. It's quite respectable, and you know, going to be good enough for gaming at probably full HD resolution. Okay, that test completed. We've got a score of good, 9813 Firestrike score. And it says the average is 9,700, so slightly above average. And then what have we got here? The CPU clock frequency, a lot of the time is up at 4.2 gigahertz. CPU temperature, around 40. It gets hot at the end, I think. About 64. And GPU about 63. So gives quite a lot of information, this benchmark. So yeah, that's 3D Mark. And then if we look at the CPU performance from Passmark, we can have a look how the CPU performs. In fact, I could run all of these and come back with the score for each of them. So I'll do that now. It's during this test that we can see that the temperature gets quite high and then the fan kind of tries to catch up and then it goes back down to a normal temperature. So here are the results for Passmark performance test 11.1, 2001 for 9.7, CPU mark 6639, and there's a weakness there being a disk drive. As I've just got the SSD, I could plug in the M.2 drive and we should get better performance. So there we go, this PC is up and running. I didn't actually have to do that much to it. Some troubleshooting and replacing the memory in the system, and we got a working system. But I think what I'll do with this is perhaps upgrade the graphics card in it, and with a slightly more modern graphics card, and perhaps install Windows or reinstall Windows on the little M.2 drive for faster boot performance, and then we'll have a nicely performing system. It probably could do with a larger SSD for games, and yeah, this is a working system. It's quite nice to see. This is quite a high-end motherboard as far as I can tell. You know, you've got these switches up here, got this display that tells you if there's any errors with the error code. It's got USB 3, and as far as I can tell, it's quite solid in terms of reliability and how it performs. But I'm going to continue leaving it running just to see if any problems occur. So thanks for watching, and make sure you click subscribe, become a member if you want. Thank you for those who are members, and come back for another video soon.